Hello everybody, welcome back. My name's Daniel Gabali. Today I wanted to do some puzzles, right? So these are puzzles that were created by, I think it was a Deep Mind or something like that. And there's a chess.com blog post about it. But I think the chess.com blog post seemed to give away some of the answers. So I'm going to just try and do it via John Levitt's. John Levitt is Jonathan Levitt, nice guy actually. He's a chess grandmaster, English chess grandmaster like me. It's actually had an opening day after where he used to live. Actually, I don't know why I've got the headphones on again. I was about that mistake. It's called Clarendon Court, where you go d4, f5. No, sorry, d4, c5, d5, f5. And I think as black, somewhat playable. But he named it after Clarendon Court, which is where he was living in London at the time. And I actually played that in the 1995 Hastings Summer Masters. So Hastings normally on a winter, and I played that in the Hastings Summer Masters against a Russian grandmaster called Nukim Rashovsky. He didn't nuke me, but he nuked me in the opening really. So after f5, he fought for a while and used all his grandmasterly experience, and I think he did something like so d4 c5 d5 f5. I think he did something with e4, fe, knight c3, knight f6, g4. And I was really completely on my own then. And apparently this is still playable for black, but I didn't really know what I was doing, and I got crushed very quickly. So that was one of the first actually FIDE rated events I played, when I was playing as an unrated at the time. Because I remember people would complain about being paired against me. Because, I was unrated. But I was probably already like IM strength, to be honest. And I drew with like Mark Ferguson. I drew with I beat Chris Duncan, lost to Jonathan Parker as well. Anyway, so the first puzzle. Let's have a look at the first puzzle. Puzzle one. Puzzle one is white to move. But apparently, because I read the blog post, that's what I realised. It said something about you got to give both rooks away or something immediately. It's a very unusual one. So it's white's playing win, right? So what about rook g7, rook f7? But that doesn't look right, does it? So yeah, so your first thought is, well, if you move the bishop, bishop h6 is giving him, that's kind of a tempting attacking move. But then they've got all these checks like queen h4 check, queen h4. How do you escape the king, right? So I might have misread the blog post incorrectly. That's the only puzzle I saw where mentioned anything about it. So that's why I clicked out of that, because I wanted to try and solve the puzzles by myself. So also the queen on a7 is kind of out of the game. You can't get the queen into the game very easily. Rook takes d7. You look at captures as well. Rook takes d7, certainly a move you think about actually, because if they take on d7, you take back, and then if they go queen g5, maybe you have an attack there, although I don't quite see it. After rook d7, I don't think they're going to take actually, because the queen takes b8. So they're probably going to take on g5. But then actually there's no obvious follow-up, because rook d8, rook d8. So even with a clue that you give up both rooks, it doesn't seem obvious how you actually win. And maybe I just misread that. I mean, rook g7 takes queen e3 might be an idea, with the idea of queen e7 check, or bishop h6 check maybe. But again, yeah, it's quite tricky. Yeah, a lot of these puzzles are very, very tricky, right? Or maybe it's rook g6, but then they just take. If you go rook g7, they take. You would look at checks and checks and captures first, but rook takes f5. If you were playing this in a normal game, you'd probably play a move like rook takes f5, because you'd be like, well, that defends the bishop. Prepares maybe other attacking moves. Not quite sure what though. You look at moves like that, wouldn't you? You look at moves where they're kind of obvious. Also, black might be threatening to counter-attack rook a8. So you have to be careful. If rook takes f5, rook a8 might be kind of annoying. Because if you move the queen, they got rook a2 check, and they got maybe even a winning counterattack. So you do have to be a little bit careful. So yeah, in a proper game, you might think about bailing out it with a move like queen e3. Just get the queen back in the game and hope that that's enough for a draw at least. But again, they might go rook a2. Even after queen e3, rook a2, it's not so obvious how you even draw. Maybe queen b3, right? So what happens if I go rook f8? Rook f8. That doesn't really feel right, does it? Okay, so I've screwed that one. Right, let's give myself, I'll tell you what, I'll give myself 2 minutes to come up with puzzle 2, the answer to puzzle 2. And then I'm going to do, I'm not going to do all the puzzles, to be honest, because I will do it at some point, but not on this video, because it's going to take too long. But these are they're obviously quite tricky, right? So puzzle 2 is actually black to play. And I think John's into all this AI stuff at the moment. You know, he's created this kind of AI obsession because he's got all these music videos now where he's got AI artists. And I'll be honest, I don't really agree with that sort of thing. That's what I said to him on Twitter, because I feel like it takes away from proper artists, real artists. And it's not just that. I just find it a bit soulless, really, all that stuff. When you go on YouTube now, a lot of the videos are AI generated, which to me, what I hate is most of all is AI voiceovers, because I just hate that. The sound of it is horrific. But the music he's got up there on his channel actually is pretty good. I mean, it sounds pretty good, but it's kind of generic stuff. It's not really, you know, it's not as good as, you know, some of the songs that you see from normal artists. Fortunately, I wouldn't say, you know, it's probably about as good as you can get from AI. Maybe not, I don't know, but it will. The scary thing with AI, it will get better. But at the moment, it feels like it's just cramming up the whole internet with generic slop. All this AI. So puzzle 2, I haven't got a clue on. I'm not even going to bloody attempt it. Maybe it's a rook move, maybe it's a queen move. Who knows? I'm just going to do puzzle 3. But what I'll do is I'll leave a link down below so people can try these puzzles themselves, because they're very interesting actually. And you could probably spend hours trying to solve these, however strong you are, right? Because they're really tough. You know, it reminds me of what I did for a book that was called Impossible Quiz, right? And also John is like a bit of a puzzle, like study expert as well. And also you have people like John Nunn, who are into studies, and Jonathan Mestel. So if you're called John and you're an English Grand Master, the chances are you like studies for some reason. Jonathan Mestel is also, I think, university background as well. Like obviously John Nunn was famously like one of the youngest to enter university to study maths, you know, for centuries, since Cardinal Wolsey or something. But I think Jonathan Mestel has also spent time working as university lecturer in maths, possibly. I'm not sure about that. I played Mestel maybe a couple of times. Quite a good player actually. Although I did have a reasonable record against him, which is rare. Played John Levitt a few times as well. I maybe only played him once. I remember I played him in a tournament in Oakham where I should have probably made a gem norm, and I beat John. I think I may have beaten him. I can't really remember. With black possibly, or was it with white? I can't remember. Or maybe I lost. I just can't remember, you know. But anyway, this other one is tough as well. I can't get it because rook f8, queen h8, king f7 doesn't seem to lead anywhere. You do have knight e5 there though, so you look at forcing moves, checks and captures. But knight e5, king e7, not clear. Queen h4, king e8, not clear how you make your progress there. Queen h5, king e7, bishop g5 you have. But then they can go back to f6, or they can take on f6 and then go back to e8. But then you go queen g6, king there, queen g7, then they go king. The king ends up on d6. So actually you don't have any pieces after that really, other than queen and knight. So you'd have to basically, you'd have to make with what you got at board at the moment, because there's no rook on a1 to come into the attack later. There's no other knight. There's no other bishop. If you had a knight on d3 here, you could go knight e5, and that would pretty much be the end of the game. Knight de5, not knight ge5. You go knight de5, because then you're threatening queen h8. So that would make it a very simple puzzle, but unfortunately it's not quite that simple. So anyway, so these are the puzzles. I'll leave a link down below. Try these puzzles. I'm going to try these puzzles at some point because they're fascinating. You know, this is a good way to train your chess brain. Chess, it's all about problem solving, right? Unfortunately, I couldn't get any of those puzzles right. Maybe just shows how weak I am at chess, basically. But really, really nice puzzles. And yeah, please like and comment and subscribe for this video. So please like and subscribe on this video. So it can get promoted on the algorithm. Thanks again.